Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker, formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. When his health failed, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. He found a haven in a working-class district of the city known as Little Russia. There Isaac took on a new name, Ishmael. He then became embroiled in the affairs of a brutal member of the Lamadiza organized crime family, known as Leo. Convinced by his longtime friend Frankie to flee from his commitments to the Lamadiza family, Isaac found himself hunted by the ruthless Leo. On a rooftop, far from witnesses, Leo murdered Frankie. Only through the use of his skills as a hacker was Isaac able to drive Leo off. Wounded, alone, and far from help, Isaac depended on the kindness of strangers. One stranger, a burqa-wearing doctor known as Fatima, took pity on Isaac and helped him make his way to the mysterious Star X line. At the end of all hope, they found the Star X line and the slim promise that the enigmatic beings behind the Star X could save Isaac from the implants which destroyed his life. What do you do when those who saved you have recorded everything you are? What do you do when your every action is tracked by the Keylogger? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Keylogger, the third installment in the firmware pentology by Colbytrax. (00-00-00). When I was a boy, my father would take me to the North Shore Spaceport. That wasn't its real name. It was called the Henry Koenig International Airport. No mention of spacecraft, no mention of the wonders of modern science, simply a reference to a technology held in no greater regard than a chair or a stool. That was my first glimpse at the truth behind everything. Everything had started as something exciting and new before it became just another layer of dust in a world slowly filling with new things. There was a time, tens of thousands of years ago, when the stool was a new technology. When early beta testers risked their backsides testing Stool 0.01. The comment section of their forums were every bit as lively as the launch of a new AI personal assistant. As I grew older, I began to realize that most, if not all, of the technologies we use day to day had been around for a very long time. It was further back to the first computational devices than it was from the creation of that device to the founding of the United States. We had 100 different, read better, technologies for encoding audio and video. But at the end of the day, the average resident of Little Russia, Little Chiba, or Park Terrace couldn't tell a modern codec from an ancient one without the use of a screen as large as a wall. We were awash in technologies off patent since before our grandparents were born. And what did we do with them? We watched movies, listened to music, got drunk in bars, and generally did the exact same things our parents and their parents and their parents before them had been doing since day naught. Even the great airships, which crisscrossed the globe bringing every product under the sun to the city, were ancient technology. The carbon nanotubes which formed their skin had been a standard design element in everything from shoes to immense orbital lifting blimps for longer than in a modern human lifetime. And that was a very long time indeed. Even with the miraculous engineering which allowed the orbital lifting blimps to increase in volume 2,000 times during their long, slow flight from the North Shore Spaceport to the edge of space, there was no amazement. Nothing was new. We had given up reaching farther than those who came before us for the comfort of an air-conditioned cave, cheap food, and even cheaper entertainments. I remember those rare times when my father would grab my hand and point off into the distance. When I was 5, I would wonder how we knew where to point. By the time I was a teenager, I knew it was a simple trick of technology. As they said in ancient advertisements, there was an app for that. And there were neurocerebral implants, both of which were old hat before I was born. When he pointed, I would stare after his finger, tracking its motion across the sky until I found it. First, I would see it. It started as a wide spot of silver moving sideways across the sky. The motion was strange, not ponderous and slow like the dirigibles and blimps who plied the sky around the spaceport. No, this thing would slide sideways across the sky, faster than a flying car, reckless in its speed, as it drilled its way toward one of the last remaining landing strips at the spaceport. Then there was the sound. Some droned like monstrous insects. Others roared like dragons in a game. The noise was immense, overwhelming, and wonderful. I would ask my father why they moved so fast. He would tell me how they were heavier than air. They used lift and propulsion to overcome the pull of gravity and escape the ground. He explained that they could only stop moving when they landed. I'd stare at him in disbelief. What could I do? The only flying machines I saw regularly were blimps, dirigibles, and helicopters. All of them could hover in place. All of them were quiet, their lift coming from vacuum-filled bags or from silently spinning electric turbine-powered blades. Flight around the city was silent and graceful. The noisy flying machines, the airplanes, were dinosaur remnants of another age. They were remnants of a louder, brasher age, which to my young eyes always seemed better and much more exciting. The slowly climbing spacelifters, with their ever-expanding bags of nothing, supporting them all the way to the edge of the atmosphere, 21 miles above, held no interest for me. They were soft and gentle. Only when they were at the edge of space would they begin to accelerate slowly, ever so slowly, on engines with barely enough power to overcome the gentle and ever-diminishing air resistance at the edge of space. There was none of the thrust and thump and awe of the ancient rockets which took men to the moon. There was none of the fury which propelled the components of Is City into place all those years ago. That was the problem of living at the end of history. Everything interesting had been done. There was nothing new under the sun, and what was left to us was a pale shadow of what came before. I wanted to feel the punch of a progress rocket. I wanted to make a run to Is City in the days when it was a science station. I wanted to go in the days when it would have taken half a day to make the leap from the Kazakhstan steppes to Is's old orbit, barely 250 miles above the Earth. Now, Is City sat solidly over the Atlantic, never moving against the sky. Its orbit long ago modified until it became geosynchronous. It is much larger now, and only the most important visitors make the journey in less than a day, while most take the longer, slower, uneventful journey there, a journey which now routinely stretches to a week for the cheapest runs. Even as a child, I knew the future would contain nothing exciting ever again. Firmware Keylogger is the third book in the firmware pentology. That's 5 books, if you must know. It begins where Firmware Proxy ends, which in turn followed on the heels of Firmware Hijacked. So you haven't heard or read Firmware Hijacked or Proxy, this would be a great time to head on over to Colbyjack.net and either download the podcast on the audio side, read the episodes on the visual side, or download the Colbyjack Sunday Reader issues 1 through 46 in your choice of either EPUB or MOBI. Firmware, Hijacked, Proxy, and Keylogger are all available in ebook versions from our store at shop.colbyjack.net, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Smashwords.com. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, Proxy, and soon Keylogger is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. If you're on a smaller screen, the bottom will be found at the bottom of the page. Firmware Keylogger is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Just don't sell it, and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. I do mostly Twitter, so if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. Thank you once again. Remember to be fabulous and have a wonderful week.